Mountain men, much as they would have denied it, were products of the culture from which they sprang. And the white American culture at that time wasn't much given to bathing. Fact is, one of the most unfair things a mountain man could say was to call an Indian a dirty Injun. That was really a case of the pot calling the kettle black, and the pot was a whole lot blacker than the kettle. Most mountain men truly believed that cleanliness was next to godliness, and they also believed in keeping them both at arm's length. That's pretty much what the next story is about. It's called Snake. I see you greenhorn would-be mountain men a-fighting shy and hanging back and making tracks to get upwind of me and setting on the other side of this here fire, keeping such a distance that it taxes all the speechifying skills of even this accomplished liar. Hell, I know I ain't no violet, nor quite some French perfume, and yet, if it weren't for this here smell, I reckon I'd be telling you this tale from some place in the depths of hell. But before I start to give away the details of this history, it appears to me you ought to know the nature and formation of this rancid emanation. The slow but sure accumulation, adding just a mite each day, of a beaver trapper's personal bouquet. Castorium's the most essential stench, the bait we use to drench a beaver set to get the critters further plews. Of course, there's mud and lots of blood and grease and rot-gut trader's booze and oozing from both man and horse a plenitude of sweat. And then surprises by a grizzly bear or Blackfoot's come to lift your hair contribute more than somewhat to the odor in your britches, which is what identifies 'em specifically with you. So, scanning all the pluses and the minuses, the perfume of a mountain man is sure to clear your sinuses. Howsomever, now I'll turn my hand to the picture that I aim to draw concerning when I went a-trapping down along the Arkansas, that skinhead Osage land, and lately lots of Cherokee uprooted by Old Hickory from out their home in Tennessee. Them Injuns didn't fret me none. After fighting Pagan, Sioux, and Ree, I reckoned I could do the trick with just a mite of hickory stick. A mountain man'd hardly need a gun. Course, that's just a way of speaking. Fact is, my pards and me was sneaking through that Osage country with uncommon stealth, whilst harvesting a wealth of beaver plews and thinking on the shining times they'd buy up at the summer rendezvous. 'Twas nigh to spring, and every living thing was bustin' to begin its life again. The buds all showin' on the trees, and buffler cows a-lowin'. The plants could hardly keep from growin'. Wakontanka promised summer on a gentle southward breeze. I was riding lazy through the hazy woods, musing on the goods I'd buy at rendezvous, and then perhaps some foo-for-all for a pert Shoshone squaw who chanced to catch my licorice eye whilst dancing like a saint in heaven up at Bear Lake in 27. Wrapped up I was in reverie with one more beaver trap to check, when something big fell off a tree and landed on my neck, then spilled onto my lap. My horse begun to bolt, and before I got a hold of him, he trun me to the ground, and all around me coils were snapping tight like coopers fixing barrel hoops, and I was staring right into the ugly maw of the biggest, meanest black snake ever seen along the Arkansas. At least a rod or two in length he was, and thicker than my thigh in girth. I fought for all that I was worth, reaching for my knife or gun, but for all the good I done, I could have been a baby fresh from birth. Now, black snakes, they ain't got no pison, but sure as morning sun a-risin', they'll take your sinful life by squeezing. Don't matter the specific reason. Dying's hardly ever pleasing, 'cause what it means to me and you is missing out on rendezvous and losing next year's trapping season. He locked me tight in his embrace, his ugly head right up beside my face, and all his scaly coils a-thrashing in a purely dreadful fashion, drawing taut and tighter till I thought my bones would surely break. 'Twas then I knew the course I had to take. I realized if I would ever know again life's simple, sinful, carnal pleasures, this situation called for altogether desperate measures. I felt my tarnal soul a-going south. So up and kissed that sarpent on the mouth. At first he hissed, and then he gagged. He missed a rap or two, and then he jerked, and sagged a mite, just enough for me to work my right arm nearly free. I hated what I had to do, but it was him or me. He was just an ornery snake and probably didn't mean to make no harm, but if that reptile plumb persisted, I was sure to buy the farm. I grabbed his scaly head and shoved it underneath my arm. What he found in there was mostly hair all matted with 1,000 daily sweats and ratted in a pompadour with lice who died with no regrets, a full Methuselah, a scurf, and nigh a peck of western turf. 'Twas damp and dank and ranker than a buffler bull in rut, and didn't smell no sweeter than a hydrophoby polecat's butt. He bucked and kicked and started in to fight, but all the while he knew he dasn't bite. Then he begun to cough and sneeze and wheeze, and pretty soon forgot to squeeze. I gave him still another whiff of that bilious confection, and he went stiff and then begun to shudder, sort of lost direction like a ship that's gone and lost its rudder. He finally went limp, and I kicked free and loosed his head. He lay unconscious, like he was mostly dead, not offering any more to wrestle, just twitching now and then, maybe thinking of a passel of stinking mountain men. I reckoned that I'd gone too far and felt a certain fond regret, so I resolved to save his life and keep him for a pet. I hunkered down and waited until that snake come to, and when he did, he looked at me and tried to escape, but that he couldn't do. He shivered and he quivered and then begun to quake. I reckon that I knew right then he was mortal sick, that snake. He screamed one awful shriek, and then he up and died. I sighed and figured at the least I'd take his scaly hide. I'd have it yet, but fact is I treated it to Cherokees I met up on the ridge. You can see it still down on the Arkansas. They use it for a bridge.